While that's happening, Tahani and Jason are on their soul-saving honeymoon with Michael, and they've picked Jacksonville for their romantic destination, just like any right-minded person would.
Was that sarcasm?
Welcome back to another episode of The Rank. I'm John, and today we're going to be doing another episode of The Good Place. Now, if you're just a fan of The Good Place or you enjoy consuming content about The Good Place, please consider subscribing and or following. Like the episode, comment, email your questions or suggestions to info@therankpodcast.com. Please also consider becoming a patron on our Patreon site at patreon.com/therankpodcast. Now, today we're going to be ranking the 6th episode of the 3rd season of The Good Place, titled The Ballad of Donkey Doug, written by Matt Murray and directed by Rebecca Asher. Now, for the sitcoms that have already been out for a long time, I'm not going to worry about spoilers, so there's your spoiler alert. There's going to be spoilers here. You should watch these episodes before you're listening to mine or watching. Now, the whole point here is we're going to try to find out what's the best sitcom of all time. The way it works is we're going to rank every individual episode, and then we'll take an average of those rankings for the series. That'll give us potentially the best sitcom of all time. So let's find out how this one stacks up, starting with the Potent Notables.
Potent Notables.
So this episode aired Thursday, October 25th, 2018, and it went from 2.703 million viewers to 2.672 million viewers, so not that big of a difference, but it seemingly just keeps going down. It makes me sort of sad to see, but I give kudos to NBC for keeping it on. Superstore, The Good Place's lead-in, beat The Good Place with 3.063 million viewers, so it's not holding that audience that is leading into it, which is not a good sign. But let's go to the competition, because it went up against Grey's Anatomy on ABC, which got 6.543 million viewers. Much better than last week's Toy Story of Terror. Young Sheldon on CBS, which had 10.961 million viewers. It also had Thursday Night Football to compete with on Fox, which had 12.052 million viewers. And in case you're wondering, in Antonio, I know you're not, just to let our listeners/viewers know, Antonio hates that I tell who played and what the score was, but I think it's fun, so I'm going to keep doing it.
It most certainly is not fun.
The Texans beat the Dolphins 42-23, and that just sounds like an awful game to me. It did beat Supernatural again on the CW, which had 1.388 million viewers, and I mistakenly said that Thursday Night Football won the night in the last Good Place episode. It was actually The Big Bang Theory last week, as it was this week, getting 12.994 million viewers. God, that thing was a juggernaut. Now, the ad on top of the Jacksonville airport cab, which is crushed by the monster truck, is for the Mindy St. Clair Rescue Alliance. Just a fun little callback, right? Eleanor says that, quote, there's a very specific Lenny Kravitz concert I want to be front row at. So this is referencing there's a Lenny Kravitz concert in Stockholm where his pants split and exposed his penis to the audience. So that's what she's talking about. All right, and finally, we got some more Tahani name-dropping tracking. Tahani mentions Elon Musk again. She says that she gave him the advice to reach for the stars. Quote, and then he shot his car into space. What a weird creep. End quote. So that was a fun name drop. I enjoy that she called him a weird creep, which feels pretty prescient. Now, I decided to not list all of the name drops again because Antonio hates it.
Because it's too long.
And I'm guessing if he hates it, then some of you out there hate it. But if you're really interested in hearing what, the old ones are, just listen to the previous episodes. I list them all out. All right, so those are all the Potent Notables. Let's go to the episode overview. So we begin a new phase of The Good Place. Now that all of our favorite characters know that they're going to end up in the bad place, no matter what they do, they've decided to help save people from ending up there. And where are we going to start? Jason's dad. And Chidi breaking up with Simone, because that's what we're doing. Now, the A story feels like it should be trying to save Jason's dad, Donkey Doug, whom he calls Donkey Doug. But we lead the show off with Eleanor talking to Janet, getting the truth about her past high school interactions, and Chidi announcing that he's been fired for the chili thing. Now, I'm not saying the chili situation was good from the previous episode, but I don't know that I buy that he would get fired for that. I actually think the sabbatical would have been a more likely response. Anyway, Chidi has decided that he needs to break up with Simone because he knows that he would break down and tell her about the afterlife and thereby doom her like Michael and Janet did to them. Janet is taking up unnaturally saying Bing.
Bing!
whenever she goes to talk to somebody. I get the joke and it's cute, but it feels like it's a little late for her to be wanting to do this. But thanks to her knowledge of everything, she's going to build a VR machine to help Chidi break up with Simone. She knows Simone and Chidi so well that she can fairly accurately depict what will happen in any given scenario. The scenario that Eleanor eventually tries when she puts on the VR thing is to bang Simone, which was pretty funny. It didn't make the laugh counter, so it wasn't, I guess, funny enough to make me laugh, but I enjoyed it. Anyway, while that's happening, Tahani and Jason are on their soul-saving honeymoon with Michael, and they've picked Jacksonville for their romantic destination, just like any right-minded person would.
Was that sarcasm?
The depiction of Jacksonville in the show is fantastic, but it's even better at the airport visually, which is the Macho Man Randy Savage Airport. Ooh, yeah, Macho Man Airport! And then the taxi is a monster truck. I mean, this is just great stuff. This is where we find out that Donkey Doug is actually Jason's dad, and that he calls him Donkey Doug, not Dad, including in person to him. He doesn't say, "Hey, Dad," he says, "Hey, Donkey Doug." Their plan to save his dad is to convince him to finish his electrician's license. Now, I'm not sure how that would have done it, but that was the plan. The plan unravels quickly as Donkey Doug introduces his get-rich-quick scheme that he cooked up with Pillboi, which will require Doug and Pillboi to rob an energy drink factory, a cologne factory, and a bottle factory, because their idea is to make the first ever energy drink body spray combo.
It's a pretty cool idea.
Now, even though Jason loves the product, of course, he doesn't think that robbing 3 factories is a good idea. 2, he would understand, but 3, that's just too many. Now, what will our soul savers do? Why, they'll pivot off of Jason's dad as a lost cause and move on to Pillboi. Okay. Essentially, they trick Pillboi into staying at the nursing home and continuing there as a secret mission from NASA. And Jason goes to help his dad, but the cops come. But don't worry, Donkey Doug sacrifices himself to keep Jason out of trouble. And he says, "Hey, it's what my dad did for me, it's what I'm doing for you, and it's what you're gonna do for your kid eventually someday." And Jason's like, "I hope not," which was funny. Anyway, that's the conclusion of that storyline, which was apparently the B storyline, which probably should have been the A storyline. Anyway, let's go back to the A storyline. What about Chidi and Simone? Well, naturally, the VR simulations don't do anything for Chidi, and he, being frazzled, yells, "You dumped!" at Simone. Then eventually they have a more sane conversation and she's just kind of like, "Yeah, that's fine." It seems like a relationship that they were both really excited about, really fought for each other there. There was a line from Eleanor that I really liked where she was telling Chidi to just talk to her, because Chidi's, he's having trouble like working up the courage to actually break up with her, and he hates the way he just did it. She's like, "Just talk to her, because her life is bigger than your relationship with her. She'll get over it," which I thought was like a really good piece of advice. I liked it. I thought it was well put. So mission's kind of accomplished. They meet up in Budapest. And before anybody says it's actually Budapest, that's how they pronounce it in Hungary. I'm in America. I speak English. I pronounce it Budapest. It's an accent thing. Okay? It's the same with Melbourne, Australia. All right? It's not Melbourne. Melbourne is how Australians pronounce it. Melbourne is how I pronounce it, because I pronounce my R's and they don't. So I just fought with comments that were never going to happen, and potentially now they will happen because I fought with them. Bring it.
He's talking to himself, sir.
Anyway, now they're in Budapest because Tahani is going to confront her family to help save them as well. And right as the episode ends, we find out that Eleanor's mom hasn't actually died. She faked her own death, and Eleanor is reasonably distressed and reasonably angry when she hears this. So that's where the episode ends. Let's find out how it ranked.
Rank.
So the rank is where I rank the episode based on 5 categories: story, acting, dialogue, episode coherence, and character relatability. I ranked it on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best. And then I had a laugh counter where I tally up the amount of times that the episode made me laugh out loud, 1 point per laugh out loud, and that gets added to the score. So the first category is story, which I gave a 3.5. Now the story is to save Donkey Doug, or Jason's dad, and for Chidi to break up with Simone. Nothing crazy, nothing fantastic. The A and B stories were both good sitcom stories. So let's go to acting, which I gave a 4.25. Everyone except Donkey Doug and Pillboi are great. However, they weren't bad. It definitely feels like the Jason storylines are meant for overacting silliness. So I can't decide if it's not good acting or if they were acting really well to fit the role. And I enjoyed them, so I decided on the higher end because everyone else is just so damn good. So let's go to dialogue, which I also gave a 4.25. Always funny, but mostly just goofy with the focus on Jason in this episode. Not bad, just not necessarily as clever as usual. And 4.25 is not a bad score. So let's go to episode coherence, which I gave a 3. We understand now what they're going to try to do. They're going to try to keep people they care about out of the bad place. The premise for this episode cohered pretty well. However, Chidi yelling, "You dumped," at Simone didn't jive with his character, no matter how frazzled he was. Also, how is getting Jason's dad to become an electrician going to save him? And why has Janet suddenly taken to saying Bing and being awkward? Hasn't she been on Earth for over a year at this point? So not the best coherence, but it's not terrible. I mean, those are just sort of minor things. So let's go to character relatability, the last category, which I gave a 3.5. I mean, a lot of this episode centers around Jason, Jason's dad, and Jason's friend, who are all not very relatable characters. They're funny, but not relatable because they're absolutely absurd. Although I suppose I can relate to someone getting sucked into get-rich-quick schemes. That's how I ended up podcasting.
Yeah, give us internet money.
The other portion of this, Chidi, is very relatable. Breaking up is never easy, though I think Simone takes it better than most people would. So that gets us to the end here. Not the greatest rankings, so it needs to have a fairly decent laugh counter to keep it into the top 3 tiers. And it did, it got 14. So this puts the episode total at a 32.5, which means I'd watch it again. This puts the series average at 38.7, which is in the Holy Grail. And so that means it took like a little slight dip in this one. Still good, but not as good as it's been. So thanks for listening and or watching, everybody. If you'd like to see a list of our episode and series rankings, you can do that on our website at therankedpodcast.com. Remember to subscribe, review, and comment, and please consider supporting us on our Patreon site at patreon.com/therankedpodcast, where you'll get access to all of our archived episodes. And I'll leave you with this. How did Doug get his nickname Donkey? Well, he married a woman named Jenny and they produced a jackass.
That's actually not bad.
And I know, you may be thinking that joke is foul, but I'd say it's full.
You ruined it.
Bing-ing. She's saying bing or bing or whatever. I'm going to start that over because, well, it's going to end up in the fucking bloopers.
Oh, you know it.